people don't know what I look like until now. Until they start going to the movies. They're gonna see my face. Big deal.
Yo, what's good? OMG Hawk, one-man gang, back at y'all with another one. I hope everybody's staying well, staying warm as it's getting colder out. Today's case is extremely disturbing and involves sensitive subject matter. Viewer discretion is advised. As fascinating as the details of the case are, they should stand as a strong reminder of the depraved type of individuals in our society and the horrors that domestic violence victims face every day in America. The events in today's video bring us to the Pacific Northwest city of Portland, Oregon. Portland, also known as Rose City, is the largest city in Oregon by size and population. Portland is vast with beautiful scenery, whether it be the Pacific Ocean to the west or the breathtaking mountainscape to its east. Portland is known as a progressive city,
keeping Portland weird,
ripe with arts and culture, and is one of the most eco-friendly cities in the country. Today's story begins in the Centennial neighborhood of the city, specifically the 2400 block of Southeast 171st Avenue.
Police are still on scene of a shooting and standoff in Southeast Portland, blocking roads in the Centennial neighborhood. Welcome to KOIN 6 News at 10. I'm Liz Birch. Dozens of officers are still on scene with the crisis negotiation team as neighbors say someone is shooting from an apartment building.
Portland 911 dispatch received a call around 3:30 in the afternoon on November 21st, 2021 from a woman at an apartment complex near Southeast 171st and Division. Mariela Gonzalez Rocha had called 911 stating that her ex-boyfriend was holding her hostage inside an apartment bathroom. The fear and terror was evident in her voice as she could be heard crying through the phone, pleading, "Please, please don't, please don't," before a man snatched the phone from her. The man told dispatchers his name was Jason and that Mariela was high on drugs, insinuating authorities should disregard her claims. She managed to say the name Davonte Donahue into the phone before the call was suddenly ended. Mariela's decision to blurt out her captor's name amidst her terror was extremely brave and also wise, considering the fact that 29-year-old Davonte Donahue from Vancouver was a wanted escapee from federal custody, and a quick search of his name would hopefully get her a more urgent response from police. Back in spring 2014, Beaverton, Oregon police were conducting undercover operations to take down sex trafficking in the area. Early afternoon on April 15th of that year, a detective posing as a John responded to an ad on Backpage.com with a young woman offering her services and promoting herself as a provocative princess. She agreed to meet at the Comfort Inn in a couple hours, and police was set up around the hotel in preparation for the takedown. At around 2:45 that afternoon, a maroon Crown Victoria pulls up to the hotel and dropped the young woman off. Detectives immediately recognized her as a victim from a previous sex trafficking case that went down in Portland during July of the previous year. Although she was being promoted as a 20-year-old girl, police realized she was only 17 years old. She was detained, and police followed the Crown Vic out of the parking lot and onto the street. Davonte Donahue, who was 21 at the time, was in the passenger seat of the car, driven by his wife, 22-year-old Tori Donahue. It was later determined that Davonte and Tori were both complicit in trafficking the victim, but Davonte was pimping out Tori as well. They had been trafficking the victim for the last few months between Vancouver, Seattle, and the Portland areas, reportedly making average $1,000 a day off her services, and Davonte keeping all the proceeds. Police attempted to stop the car near 173rd Avenue and Washington Avenue. Both Donovan and Tori initially put their hands up at the officer's request, but seconds later, in an act of desperation, Davonte slammed the Crown Vic into gear from the passenger side and smashed down the gas pedal underneath his wife's foot, sending the car speeding away from officers. The Crown Victoria soon smashed into two police vehicles and a civilian vehicle before crashing through a wall and landing in a ditch in the bordering town of Aloha, Oregon. Tori climbed out the window of the wrecked car, pretty beat up and visibly shaken from the crash. Seconds later, Davonte pops up out the wreckage and makes a break towards the opposite side of the ditch and started climbing a chain link fence. Tori waited next to the car with tears in her eyes for the pursuing officer's assistance. A teenager and his father saw a bloodied up Davonte make his way over the fence into their apartment complex. They asked if he was all right. He told them he needed help, but continued running past them and started hopping other fences surrounding the complex. A police canine found him in a nearby backyard, hiding inside of a pink playhouse. Officers searched the wrecked Crown Vic and found a loaded assault rifle with additional magazines taped to it in the trunk. Davonte and Tori were brought to the hospital for their injuries they received in the crash. Tori was released from the hospital and issued a citation for promoting prostitution, while Davonte was treated, released, and booked directly into Washington County Jail on various charges including compelling and promoting prostitution, eluding police, and being a felon in possession of a firearm. Their victim was taken into protective custody. Unfortunately for the couple, the federal government would pick up the case, and they were both indicted by a grand jury on charges of sex trafficking of a minor and transportation of a minor for prostitution. Davonte was also charged for the gun possession. In March of 2016, Davonte accepted a plea deal in which he was sentenced to 9 years in prison for his crimes. Davonte was released from prison this past July and transferred to the Northwest Regional Reentry Center, a halfway house-style facility in Portland designed to help inmates transition back into society towards the end of their sentences. Court records state that on August 12th, shortly before 9 at night, Davonte could be seen on the facility's surveillance cameras running to a recreation path, hopping the fence into a hotel parking lot next door where a white car was waiting for him before taking off. He was wearing a GPS ankle monitor, which he cut off and left in the parking lot. I'm not too sure how often people abscond from this facility or how urgent of a matter his escape was, but it wasn't until October 4th that a warrant was issued for Davonte on the escape charge. But he would remain under the radar until the tragic events of the Sunday before Thanksgiving. As police raced to the apartment, 911 started receiving calls from Mariela's neighbors reporting gunfire inside her apartment. When police arrived at the building, Davonte started shooting through the door of the third-floor apartment at the officers. Police blocked off the area and told all neighbors to get inside their homes. The Special Emergency Response Team busted the apartment's windows out and Davonte started shooting at them. Police took cover for a while and then threw tear gas canisters into the broken windows. Davonte started shooting at police again. Police say Davonte fired over 30 rounds at police in total. After a grueling 10-hour standoff, police, with the help of a robot, were able to break through a makeshift barricade Davonte made and were able to see him crawling around on all fours. He managed to barricade himself in another room in the apartment before police gained entry to that room and finally took him into custody around 1 a.m. Sadly, Mariela Gonzalez Rocha was found dead lying face down on the floor amongst the chaos. She had been shot once. She was 29 years old and a mother to a young son. Davonte was treated at the hospital before being booked into Multnomah County Jail. He was formally indicted on one charge of second-degree murder with a firearm, constituting domestic violence, 5 counts of first-degree attempted murder with a firearm, and 1 count of felon in possession of a firearm. My sincere condolences to Mariela's family. You know, it's really unfortunate that at some point in her life, as fate would have it, that she would make a connection with an individual capable of such brutality, but particularly towards women. Davonte was only 21 years old. He was pimping his wife, and they were both breaking other girls. You know, I personally like to think that most people that do heinous-ish have a reason, whether it be drugs or maybe trauma they've experienced in their past that could rationalize their behaviors, for me at least. But I can only imagine what Davonte could have experienced that made him have no respect for a woman. And as always, I try to be objective, but this guy...
You's a punk ass bitch.
almost makes me believe that some people are just innately rotten. The saddest part is that this is far from an isolated incident. There are many Davontes cross-country violating the most vulnerable people, whether it's forcing them to sell their bodies or just living in such volatile situations that they have a genuine fear of losing their life or really getting hurt by someone who's supposed to be their significant other. I mean, damn. We don't know the exact circumstances of Davonte and Mariela's relationship. I mean, it's reported that that's her ex-boyfriend. So, I mean, when more details come to light, I'll do a quick part 2 update video. If you still here, I genuinely do appreciate you. Please hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks again to all my new subscribers. Drop a comment that you subscribed. I'll tag your name up on the next video. For now, stay well, stay safe. OMG.